You know, there are common perceptions about church buildings. Perhaps the most prominent perception is that the church building is a sacred space. And for many in the world, bringing animals into this sacred space goes against their common perception. And believe it or not, I ran into the same clash of perceptions when I wrote a book on Desmond Tutu, the spiritual biography of South Africa's confessor. I gathered up the courage to defy common perceptions of Tutu as a mere politician. For some, this was controversial. Instead of a politician, I described him as a saint. So, what is it about common perceptions? What causes these troubled waters? Well, for quite a long time now, due to a Eurocentric focus, Christianity has been divided into three parts. You're either Roman Catholic, or Protestant, or Eastern Orthodox. And so who are you? I mean, yeah. The perception of needing saints is commonly understood among two of the three, Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, but not Protestants, who seem to have a personal focus on God through faith and grace. With a focus on saints, many Protestants believe we usually end up in dysfunctional hierarchies and also pathological ways of understanding how we are saved. So for Protestants, there is a need to shy away from saints, because for many Protestants, we would end up thinking some are better than others. And if you adhere to the recent Oscar and Emmy Awards, you probably would have to concur with the dysfunction of hierarchies and pathological ways in which we think we are saved. Such Academy Award winners include Spotlight, which tells the true story of the Pulitzer Prize-winning Boston Globe investigation of a decades-long Roman Catholic cover-up at the highest level, so high that it has become one of the biggest crime stories in modern times. And the movie director of another movie who won an Academy Award, Edward Berger, won an Academy Award for All Quiet on the Western Front, is now expecting another Oscar from a film that's about to be released on November 15th called Conclave, which is about one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, the selection of a new pope. So why does this need for understanding a perception of what is holy, what is saintly, so troubling? I think that was an amen for that right now. Well, I think we get in trouble because of the debates of the European Reformation. The problem for us, however, being Anglican and Episcopalian, is that we are known to constitute being Roman Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant. We are amphibious. We have a nature in which we constitute all that is perceived as divisive. And we have a way of believing in saints, even though we may be looked at as Protestant. We have a way of seeing on this particular day how Saint Francis of Assisi is holy. Our trouble, in other words, is in why we come to see people like Tutu and Francis as saints when we are seemingly not Roman Catholic or Orthodox. Well, here is my answer. I believe in Christian mysticism. Mysticism, defined by St. Francis, is not a fake and distant realm available only to the elite contemplatives. A church building for Francis should not only welcome who we think belong here, we should welcome barks, meows, moos, bird songs. For Francis, the Christian life is the incessant experiential invitation to become one with God, one with creation, and one with each other. So Francis has a summit meeting with the birds of the air because he wants to become united with them. And Francis kisses the hand of a leper, not because he is trying to run for being a pope and to gain the optics of appearing to be a saint. No, Francis kisses the hand of a leper because in his perception, he is kissing God. The difficulty around Christian mysticism is in how do we become one with God? How do we become one with each other? And how do we become one with someone who barks? The problem of Christian mysticism is how is it that we practice God's presence? So Francis did not want to be a bishop or a cardinal or a pope. Given Francis's biography, if you suggested such a thing to Francis, that is, I think you should be considered the next pope, no doubt he would laugh, a deep belly laugh. It would be one of those laughs that is so robust that you cannot distinguish between laughing and crying. Of course, we laugh with him, knowing the irony that the current pope is named Francis. So speaking of laughter and the capacity of the church to be both sacred and ordinary, I received an email in 2003 which read, Father Battle, John and I laughed out loud at a few of these. These sentences actually appeared in church bulletins or were announced in church services. We thought we could share them with you. The first announcement in a church bulletin was for a National Prayer and Fasting Conference, and it read, the cost for attending the Fasting and Prayer Conference includes meals. The second announcement, the sermon this morning is Jesus Walks on the Water. The sermon at our evening service is Searching for Jesus. The third announcement, Our youth basketball team is back in action Wednesday at 8 p.m. in the recreation hall. Come out and watch us kill Christ the King. The fourth announcement, ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Don't forget your husbands. Got three more. The other announcement, the peacemaking meeting scheduled today has been canceled due to a conflict. Next to last, Miss Charlene Mason sang the hymn, "I Will Not Pass This Way Again," giving obvious pleasure to the congregation. And lastly, and more pertaining to this sermon, don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help. The perceptions in our church in terms of who is holy, whether we should have saints, is something that St. Francis would laugh at. And his laughter was infectious. Those around him were infected by his joy, a joy of finding access to God in the strangest places. So St. Francis kisses the hand of the leper. And here is why Francis should be seen as a saint. He is a saint not because he does something most of us would be repulsed by, but because he was seeking God beyond his capacity to know God. He was seeking God beyond his capacity to know God. And this might sound trite or like some kind of irrelevant philosophical argument, but such desire to know God beyond our capacity of knowing is a sign of faith that we ultimately need God's help to know God. We ultimately need God's help to know ourselves. We ultimately need God's help to know each other. We ultimately need God's help to know creation and that we are created. It is a sign, this way of knowing. Gregory Orr, a wonderful mystical writer, describes a kiss. And this is what he writes about a kiss. As with lovers, when it's right, you can't say who is kissing whom. As with lovers, when it's right, you cannot say who is kissing whom. Beautiful, mystical. Those who do not understand such mysticism have a hard time with Jesus. Jesus, who constantly takes us beyond our capacity of knowing. The Pharisees approach Jesus in a finite and contentious way of knowing. Is it lawful? Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife? It really wasn't a question. Rather, it was a test for Jesus to fail. So, Jesus expands the context of the question. No longer is the male identity the focus, the central focus. The bride does not leave in pursuit of the bridegroom. Rather, the bridegroom leaves in pursuit of the bride. Jesus answers, "For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So they are no longer two, but one. No longer two, but one. This is the definition of Christian mysticism. No longer two, but one. And this takes us back to the mystical explanation of a kiss. As with lovers, when it's right, you can't say who is kissing whom. It is important for us to see and understand many times when Jesus speaks, he is speaking about himself. It is significant how the incarnation in which God became human so that we could become like God sheds light on Christian mysticism. Jesus pursues us as a bridegroom pursues the bride. The incarnation mimics how Jesus moves us beyond our human capacities of knowing. Christ, the bridegroom, pursues the bride, the church. In each is the other. In each is the other. Both identities constitute the name bride, the bridegroom and the bride. It is the kind of illumination in which Jesus entangles our human identities, our created identities, our divine identity. So when Francis kisses the leper, he's not trying to show off. He's not trying to be a saint. Rather, he is kissing God. He is going after God. He realizes that the hand of the leper is iconic, a window through which he can know God. Saint Francis, moves away from dualistic thinking of seeing everything as good or bad, me against you, us against them. He moves away from the binaries that we naturally perceive. And he teaches us to contemplate where God might be beyond even what we can imagine.